Hello everyone and welcome back to the Noob Cube. We're looking at each color individually. This time we're looking at blue. If you want to check out the whole cube, you can do that by clicking the link to Cubetutor in the description. That's where the whole cube is. If you have any suggestions for blue cards, you can definitely leave it in the comments of this video. So let's get to it. There's only two 1-drops. And one of them is only kind of a 1-drop. So there's Delver. It's a 1/1. Everybody knows what Delver does. Yeah, maybe Delver's going to be viable, maybe not. We'll see how it goes. We also have a Hypnotic Siren. It's a 1/1 flyer for a blue, but if you draw it late game, it's 5 and 2 blue, and it's like a control magic on a creature. And it gives the creature +1/+1 in flying. Looking at 2-drops now. This is Azure Mage. It's 1 in a blue for a 2/1, and then you can pay 3 in a blue anytime you want to draw a card. We also have a Palace Familiar. It's a 1/1 flyer for 2. When it dies, you draw a card. Will Bender, William J. Bender. He's a great trick. You play him face down as a morph, and then when you flip him for 1 in a blue, you change the target of a spell or an ability with a single target. Augur of Bolus might not be good enough. When it enters the battlefield, you just look at the top 3 for an instant or sorcery, put it into your hand, and the rest at the bottom. Dragon's Eye Savants. A lot of people are not happy that this card is in the initial cube, and you know what? I built this cube with things I had lying around, okay? It's a 0/6 wall for 2, but it has morph, and when you flip it, you get to look at your opponent's hand. Vaporkin, it's just a 2/1 flyer for 2. It can only block creatures with flying. You're not going to be blocking that often with Vaporkin anyway. Frost Walker, it's a 4/1 for 2. If it becomes the target of anything, it dies. But, you know, with 1 toughness, if it became the target of anything anyway, it would probably die. At least it can't be active treasoned. Looter El Core is another card that you're going to see in a lot of different cubes. It's a cube staple, 1/1 Shadow for 1 in a blue. What Shadow means is that it can only be blocked by or block creatures with Shadow. So basically unblockable. Whenever it deals damage to an opponent, draw a card and discard a card. Then we have the other Looter, Merfolk Looter, 1 in a blue, 1/1, tap to draw and then discard. Fathom Seer is a morph, and when you flip it, you return 2 islands to your owner's hand, and then when it's flipped, you draw 2 cards. So it's kind of like a forced Gush. Like it's Gush, but it forces you to return the 2 islands instead of paying 4 in a blue at instant speed. We're going to take a look at the rest of the creatures now. We have Pestermite, Frostlynx. Frostlynx is a 2/2 for 3. When it comes into play, you ice a creature. So you tap it and it doesn't untap at the next turn's untap step. This is one of the bestow creatures that I think is going to get cut very soon. It's a 2/2 flyer for 2 in a blue, and then it bestows for 4 in a blue, gives a creature +2/+2 in flying. We have a Seagate Oracle. This was a card that Catherine had to alter because I only had a Japanese one. And we want new people to be able to play with this cube. So it's 2 in a blue, 1/3, Human Wizard. Enters the battlefield, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the other on the bottom. I love this creature. I love this card so much. We have the other Pestermite, Deceiver Exarch. Don't judge me, YouTube. This is, in my opinion, one of the coolest characters ever in Magic the Gathering. So you know what? The very first cube, he's going to be in it. Prodigal Sorcerer. One Halloween. This is who I'm going to be. One Halloween. We'll see. We have a Mana War. It's a card that's in probably everybody's cube. 2 in a blue, 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you return target creature to its owner's hand. Serendib Ifrit. This may look like a green card, but it is in fact a blue card. There was just a printing error with all of the revised Serendib Ifrits. It's 2 in a blue, 3/4 flyer. During your upkeep, deals a damage to you. A Callous Oppressor. So this is 1 and 2 blue, 1/2. You can choose not to untap them. When it comes into play, your opponent chooses a creature type, and then you can tap it to gain control of a creature, as long as it isn't a creature of the chosen creature type, and as long as this card remains tapped. It's good if you have a sack outlet. You can start gaining control of all of your opponent's creatures and then sacking them. So I don't know, I felt like Mystic Snake was a little too good for this cube at this point, but Slimgar Sorcerer, it's 2-1 for 1 and 2 blue, flash, flying, and then exploit. If you exploited a creature, counter target creature spell. I think that's kind of a little bit more balanced right now. We have a Misfire Weaver. It's stamped because I drafted this at a GP. 3-1 flying, and when it's morph creature, when it flips, target creature gains hexproof. So it's almost like a counter spell when it flips. Ninja. This is the best, I think, or one of the best ninjas. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Luzian, Scholar General. It has Horsemanship. It's the only creature with Horsemanship. Horsemanship's a little bit like Shadow. Only other creatures with Horsemanship can block a creature with Horsemanship, except this creature can block anybody, unlike Shadow. So I guess it's kind of like flying. It's like other flying. Whenever it deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Binding of Thassa, 2 and 2 blue, legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card, and then 1 and a blue, tap it. Creatures your opponents control have to attack this turn if able. So if you're playing blue-green, you can make your opponent's creatures all swing into your big dudes, and then you could swing back, drawing a bunch of cards because their creatures are all tapped. It's interesting. I have this theme of dealing damage, drawing cards, as you can tell in the cube. Riftwind Cloudskate, it's just another mana war. This one has Suspend for 1 and a blue for 3 turns, 2/2 flyer. And it bounces permanents, even lands. Prognostic Sphinx, really good control finisher. 3 and 2 blue, 3/5 flying. Discard a card, it gains hexproof and you tap it. Whenever it attacks, you scry 3. Morphling, oh Morphling. Morphling used to be a first picking cube. Now not so much because of the way damage stacks. Still, I have hope that somebody will play Morphling and it will be awesome. Kiga the Tidestar, 6 mana, 5/5 legendary dragon. When it dies, you gain control of another creature. And the Palincron. 7 mana for a 4/5 flyer. You can pay 2 and 2 blue to return it to your hand. But the best part about Palincron is that when it enters the battlefield, you untap up to 7 lands. So when you play it, if it resolves, you immediately untap your lands, and you can protect it by returning it to your hand. It's also really good with cards that copy it, because a lot of the cards that copy it cost less than 7. So you're untapping 7 lands and casting a card that costs less than 7. It could result in some infinite mana combos. Sorry, I don't know why this was with the creatures. I apologize. I didn't even realize it until now. Alright, let's look at the non-creature spells. We have Brainstorm for 1 blue. Brainstorm's a classic card. This one was altered by Retro Generation. He sent me a bunch of cards that he altered for Cube. This is the one that I've decided to put into the Noob Cube, the Skeletor Brainstorm. We also have a Preordain. It's 1 blue. Scry 2, then draw a card. This is the alternate art from Vensfer versus Koth, I think. Another card I drafted day 2 of a GP is an Aqueous Form. 1 blue, enchanted creature can't be blocked. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, scry 1. We have Void Snare. This is altered by the guys from England. Decided to throw it in the cube. As many cards as I can get that were altered by other YouTubers or changed in some way or just sent to me from other YouTubers, I want to put in this cube. Void Snare is a sorcery for a blue. Return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. We have a Voyage's End, 1 in a blue. Bounce a creature, scry 1. Miscalculation is a card that sees a lot of play in a lot of different cubes. It's a counterspell unless its caster pays an additional 2, but it also has cycling for 2. We have Anticipate. New card sees a lot of play in Constructed. 2 mana. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest on the bottom. Reality Shift. I don't think this is good enough. If you have any other options for Reality Shift, if you have any suggestions, let me know. We have Mana Leak. This is a lot like Miscalculation, except it doesn't have cycling, but your opponent has to pay 3 or it's countered. Memory Lapse is actually, I think, my favorite counterspell in this format. It's 1 in a blue counterspell, and then you put it on top of that owner's library. Sure, they get to draw it again next turn, so it doesn't permanently counter it, but it's kind of like counterspell and you don't get to draw next turn. It's pretty brutal. If you counter the right thing, like you counter a Harrow or something, it's devastating. It's brutal. Like you can lock your opponent down and win the game with a single memory lapse. There's also counterspell. This is you counter target spell, again altered by the same guy who did the Cubetutor. Thank you so much for these. They've been a pretty big hit so far in the one cube I did with this Noob Cube. We have a Complicate. So it's like Mana Leak. It's 2 in a blue, counter target spell unless the controller pays 3. But it also has cycling, and when you cycle it, it force spikes, so counter spell unless the opponent pays 1. Which is great because it itself can't be countered when you do that. We have a Frantic Search. This card's interesting because I'm going to take it out of the cube immediately. One of the rules I had about this cube is that I couldn't put expensive cards in. I was like, Sonic Blast, that's not expensive, throw it in the cube. I didn't realize that the Sonic Blast from beta was so expensive. So I kind of got to take this out. Even though it's in terrible condition, I still think it's worth more than I'm willing to lose if somebody was to take it. Unfortunately, sorry. We have Compulsive Research, Rushing River. I like Rushing River a lot. It's 2 in a blue instant, return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and then it has Kicker, so you can sack a land and return 2 permanents. It's pretty good because you don't have to pay additional mana to do it, and it's non-land permanents, it's not creatures, so you can bounce a lot of different things. Repulse, bounce a creature, draw a card for 2 in a blue. Another counterspell, Dissolve, which you're all probably pretty familiar with. I don't think this is good enough either. Maybe if there's a Delver deck, Skywise Teachings, 3 in a blue enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can pay 1 in a blue. If you do, you get a 2/2 Jin Monk creature with flying. So I mean, that's really good. The upside is there. I think that might be good enough, but probably isn't. We have Tygam's Strike. Its target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. And it has Rebound. I think that it works really well with aggressive strategies as the top end, or maybe a big green strategy, so you can get your Sylvos in or something. Or Hydra Omnivore. We have a Factor Fiction. Classic. Ray of Command. This is like Blue's Act of Treason. It's an instant for 3 in a blue. Untap target creature and opponent controls and gain control of it until end of turn. That creature can attack or use abilities that require tap as part of the activation cost, also known as haste. When you lose control of the creature, tap it. So that's kind of interesting because it's also an instant, so you can gain control of the creature during your turn or during their turn. Like they can attack with 2 guys. You can take one of them, untap it, block the first one, and then return it back to them tapped so they can't block you. I like Ray of Command. It is a card that a lot of people don't know about, so the trick is very uncommon. So I think it's a pretty interesting card for this format. Dismiss, counterspell, draw a card. This is the cryptic command of the format. Control magic, huge bomb, first pickable, 2 and 2 blue, control target creature. Aether Spouts is the blue wrath. There's a lot of tokens in the format too, so it's especially good with those. For each attacking your creature, its owner puts it on top or bottom of his or her library. Jace's Ingenuity, just draw 3 cards. Treasure Cruise, probably also first pickable in this format. Icy Blast, taps down a team. This is my version of Sleep. I actually just didn't have a copy of Sleep, so I'm trying this instead. I don't know if this is better than Sleep or not. Let me know in the comments. And the last card, Fairy Conclave. I consider this a blue card, not a non-basic land or colorless card, because you'd never play this if you weren't playing blue. It enters the battlefield, tap it for blue, and you pay 1 in a blue to make it a 2/1 flyer until end of turn. And that's a cube. Well, at least the blue part anyway. If you have any suggestions for blue, leave it in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Take care, everyone. Bye.